I'm Charlie Garza, and the question before us is, why should you elect me to be in the State Board of Education? Mr. Nunez summed it up best when he said, lay people are making decisions. He is one of the lay people. I am an educator. I've been one 11 years. I've been an assistant principal 5 years. And I've been at a college level, at a high school level, at a middle school, and an elementary. I know curriculum. I know instruction, and I know the current testing, but more importantly, I know teachers. And that's the topic that's not being discussed today. The next thing is, what are the qualifications of the individual? What are they showing you, and what can they show you they can do better? Compare credentials, okay? I would suggest to you my credentials. I am National Who's Who, National Dean's List, National Dean's List. At one point, I was ranked 5th in the nation academically. Undergraduate from Illinois, first graduate school, Eastern Connecticut State, Masters, Old Dominion, all Title I, Tier 1 schools, and a doctorate candidate at George Washington University, the #1 education school in the country. So you tell me, a lay person or a person with extensive credentials? But more importantly, I also have leadership behind me, based and tested. And that leadership is based on 20 years in the U.S. Navy. That's summed up with one very important factor. I was the aide to the vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs. My job was to brief Congress, the Senate, and the President of the United States. So I understand all versions and all categories. So I understand from the classroom level all the way to how laws are made at the national level and what's going on. Well, let's go to the third primary important as you need someone with integrity and somebody with ethics in the process. Look it up. You need not qualify me, but here are the facts. Mr. Nunez had 6 ethics violations and 2 convictions in the past year for the very thing he's talked about earlier, the permanent school fund. And let's be specific on that. There's an investment company who made it known to everybody that they wanted access to the permanent school fund to better invest the money for these textbooks you talk about. He was given benefit in exchange for his access as a member of the permanent school fund. Now he says it's a mistake. Once perhaps, twice maybe, but 6 times is a tad bit much for me. The next thing, talk to superintendents, talk to teachers. He never goes there. He doesn't speak to them. So we talk about curriculum, and I understand these things. He doesn't know from the grassroots levels of those that are making decisions. And what's the end result? They're being made decisions that don't take children into effect. I challenge you, look at any meeting he's been to. He's never talked about student success, but rather he's been a partisan, dedicated for one purpose, to get his agenda in. So when you hear throughout the day, oh, it's about agenda, look at it. Well, let me be specific. Number 1, when they first passed the ELR, which is again English Language Arts and Reading, he voted against phonics. Phonics. Now we have children in high school that can't read. We're investing thousands of dollars in programs called Read 180 and others because the kids can't read. Well, how can they pass tax tests if they can't read? This time around, 2 years ago, they went again for the ELRs again, English Language Arts. And again, he voted against phonics. Phonics, folks, is basic. Bert and Ernie told us that a long time ago, okay? Those are the things that make education, because if a kid can't read, they can't succeed. I agree with the senator, 21st century jobs. But if I can't read, what's the point? Okay? It all begins fundamentally with one thing. Can a child read? If a child can't read, then their effectiveness is diminished no matter what standard you set. Next thing, look at current college rates based on what's been passed by the state board over the past years. And again, he's a 22-year incumbent. So ask yourself this question. Are we better off because of what he's done? If so, how are we? And specifically, what did he do to get us there? And what you're going to find out, none of that is true. Most recently, over the past year, he walked out in the first quarter meetings for a reason Who knows? In the second meeting, Channel 7 showed him on video, which I have a copy of, where the man is sleeping during the meeting itself. That was brought to my attention by a member of the Board of Trustees of Isleta. And I viewed it where he was sleeping. Thirdly, and most importantly, recently on Friday, there was a controversial vote. Instead of voting on it, he walked out again. So in all 3 meetings of this year alone they've had, he's either been asleep on the wheel or he's walked out. Is that what you want to represent you? A layperson or a person with proven credentials in education who understands it? Here in this room are several teachers who know me as an administrator and as a leader in school. And they came because they know who I am, they know what I believe in, and they know one very important thing. I put children first. And that's where it should be. I will not put partisanship above anything else. What I will do is ask myself the question, how does this improve the plight of children? If it doesn't, I won't vote for it. That's one commitment I make to you right here and right now. The next thing, I've been traveling throughout our district, which is huge. He says, it's better to be in Austin. No, sir. It's better to go to them and go talk to them. I've been to several superintendents. I've been to their offices, and they said, who is he? It's an appointed position, isn't it? I said, no, it's elected. Who elects him? I said, you do. And they were surprised by that. And I got that from 8 different superintendents. Ask yourself the question, why do 8 superintendents not know who he is? They know who I am, and I'm only a candidate. Okay? You know what they told me? I'm glad to see that an educator is now looking to do what's best for children. And I expressly asked them, how can I help you? How can I make things better for you? And what's going on? Those are the questions that are vital in this whole debate, this whole discussion. More importantly than that is this. Are standards better because of what he said? The doctor tells us it's about multiculturalism. I would suggest to you one very important thing. That's the problem with America. We put multiculturalism above America. This is the United States of America, not India. And once we choose to differentiate in that manner, that's what leads to partisanship. And that's what leads to a breakup. They also tell you, you know what? It wasn't in the standards. I've got data, not just words, that clearly says it is in the standards. And here's the important question. He says to you, well, we've done better. We now have more people in the TEKS. That's true. It's now 40% bigger than it was before. But if you couldn't teach standards before, how do you teach them now with 40% more? The bottom line, the only person that benefited was the test makers, and you penalized the teachers, and you penalized the students. We must not do that. The lifeblood of what makes America great begins with a classroom teacher. And when you avoid them, when you don't address them, then you're out of contact with the very nature of what they are. Don't get me wrong. I believe it's important to discuss diversity. I believe it's important to have that, but not at the expense of everything else. There's got to be a combination thereof where you work to make it better. Finally, let me say this. We're at a point right now where almost 70% of high school students are taking remedial classes when they go to college. Remedial classes. Why? Because the state board has failed in leadership and an example to prepare students to compete in the 21st century the Senator speaks of. If children have to take remedial classes, what's the bottom line? It costs more money. They get disillusioned, they drop out. The end result is we have a series of students who never finish college. Look at El Paso. We have less than 12% college graduation rate. Do you think that's acceptable?
No.
And if it's not acceptable, then go to that man right there and say, why? Why have you allowed that to happen? And what have you done to increase that? And if the answer is, I don't know, or goes off a different angle, then it's our responsibility to hold him to the fire. I say to you right here and right now, hold me to the fire. If I don't do what I tell you, I will not seek re-election. I will not. because I know what I'm talking about, and I know my teachers know what I'm talking about, and they know that those kids mean the world to me. I did this not because I want to be political, because education should not be political. This is about student success first, foremost, and last. I thank you for your time.